everyone. Today we're back for episode 5 in our Cheltenham Ante-Post series. Looking forward to this one, as well as putting up our 5th Ante-Post bet ahead of the Cheltenham Festival. We'll be looking back at Cheltenham. Lots of Cheltenhams in the intro today, because that's all we're talking about, really. The Trials Day that was such a wonderful success, a bumper card, and produced fantastic races and some really nice performances too. As usual, Dan and Jake alongside. Dan, come to you first. I imagine you are champing at the proverbial bit to get to Dublin this weekend.
Yeah, and I think this weekend really warmed the cockles for it. As you say, it was a very informative card. Things are starting to really happen. The markets are really getting shaken up. And yeah, my first time at the DRF this weekend, and I think we've got a bumper crowd for it. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can't wait either. And Jake, great to see that you'll be in attendance too. I think you left it quite late to book your hotel, but book it you have nonetheless.
Yeah, all sorted. So yeah, I'll be there. Looking forward to it, as you guys are. And yeah, we're going to see some fantastic racing over the 2 days.
Let's have a look back at Trials Day then, shall we? Because that's what we're going to start off with first. And there were loads of clues. There always are. But I almost thought there were more than usual at Cheltenham this year. And arguably the most taking visual performance came in the Triumph Hurdle Trial, didn't it, really? Because we all expected this mighty clash between Burdett Road and Sergino. It was a bit of a damp squib in the end, only because Burdett Road couldn't live with the kick of Sergino, the cruising speed of the gods. It was a marvelous performance from Sergino. Jake, what did you make of it? And is he a sensible price, do you think, a 6-4 favourite now for the Triumph Hurdle?
Oh, it was really impressive, wasn't it? As you say, we were expecting a big clash between the top two. I think there were a couple of questions on the ride, weren't there, on Burdett Road? I think Harry Cobden thought he had more horse underneath him than he actually ended up having, but that was probably down to how good Sergino was on the day. Produced the quickest final furlong time all season at Cheltenham as well. So yeah, it was a very, very visually taking performance. Obviously, he sets the standard now for the Triumph. I think 6-4, the best price, obviously shorter in places, is on the short side, especially as we've got the DRF coming up this weekend. Obviously, the Spring Juvenile has produced the last 3 winners of the Triumph Hurdle, whether they finished first or second in that race. So, that there is still potential that we could see something even better or a form line that is better this weekend. But you couldn't help but be impressed by Sergino. You wouldn't really want to be laying him at too much bigger, would you? So we'll see what happens this weekend. But yeah, Sergino was very impressive. And he was voted the most impressive performance of the weekend by you guys at home as well. So 50% of you said that he was the most impressive performance of the week.
Yeah, 50%, big old score. You can understand why. Dan, are we going to have to rely on Nicky Henderson again for the British hopes to get a Cheltenham Festival winner? It's looking increasingly like it, isn't it, day by day?
Well, it was extremely impressive, as Jake mentioned. The time was good. The finishing time was good, especially in comparison to Lossiemouth, carrying more weight for a juvenile to put that performance in. Very impressive. I was on the side of Burdett Road going into the race. I thought the Cheltenham experience and just maybe a bit more of a juvenile racy type would help, but yeah, I think Sergino's an extremely exciting prospect going forward. I'm not sure we saw the best version of Burdett Road, really, especially when you look at the proximities of Melantino. I know he was maybe given a bit more aggressive than he was the last time they met, but I just still don't think the way Burdett Road, he didn't really extend at all up the hill like we'd seen him do previously. I wasn't really in love with the way he finished that race off. Whether it was just a bit more of a prep for March, I'm not really sure, but I don't think we saw the best version of him, but it would take quite a miraculous turnaround to reverse the form of Sergino, especially bearing in mind he probably had the experience edge going into that race.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I hope to see an improved Burdett Road next time. I agree with you, Dan. I think that was his full, true showing. So fingers crossed he can bring it at the Cheltenham Festival. It's going to be a stiff old road back, isn't it, I think, for Burdett Road. Let's move on then to the Clarence House Chase, the rerouted one, as last year it was routed to Cheltenham this year. So another great spectacle. John Bon, obviously, it was a big surprise to everyone, I think, that he got beaten by Elixir the Nuts. But of course, at the 4th last fence, he made that cataclysmic mistake, which, according to the race IQ figures, knocked 4 lengths out of him compared to the field. And of course, he missed out the last 2, and he lost 1.5 lengths over the last fence compared to Elixir the Nuts. So that really is where the race was lost. We all know that, but it was interesting to put some figures on it. And had he jumped the last properly, he would have won. There's no doubt about that. Dan, I mean, we were all surprised, weren't we? Do you think it was that fourth last fence that cost him? And are you willing to give him another chance in the champion chase?
Well, it was definitely that error that cost him. I think it wasn't even just necessarily the distance he lost at the fence. It was the fact that he kind of had to be regathered in, obviously at a fairly crucial stage of the race, to just almost be given a chance. There was a slight possibility, I thought, after that area that he might be pulled up and saved for another day. It would have probably been maybe something Nico would have probably considered, given his general ride style. And he's obviously a very sympathetic rider and would have understood that there are more important tasks down the line. But yeah, I mean, and then obviously the jumping entirely wasn't great. I mean, there were errors before that, fiddly ones at that, and obviously then a very slow jump at the last, and maybe the previous errors had left its mark. But I was always in the camp of El Fabiolo. Obviously, this hasn't changed anything. All it's done is shorten El Fabiolo's price, and John Bonds had a hard race there, which wouldn't have been ideal. And obviously, we'll see what El Fabiolo's prep's going to be like at the DRF, but I'll be hard pressed to believe it'll be tougher than that.
Jake, do you still think Jean Bon can put up to El Fabiolo at Cheltenham in the champion chase, or do you think his chances has gone after that?
Well, I think it's probably the most brutal preparation you can have, really, isn't it? It's far from ideal for connections, for anyone who's backed him. You know, he didn't jump with any fluency throughout the whole contest. That mistake was as we know, was awful. I think I turned it down at the time and said that if he won from there, it was kind of even more miraculous than Stage Star, you know, when he won the Paddy Power back in November, because it was just such a bad mistake. He did so well to find the leg. I mean, obviously, as we know, that mistake at the last cost in the race. But look, I'm going to give it one more belt. Please, can we have John Bond in the Ryanair? He was already facing an uphill task to beat Al Fabiolo. He's, you know, now makes it even worse, more exaggerated because of this prep. Let's get him to the Ryanair and let's make him win a race at Cheltenham.
I really wish you'd give it a bloody rest about that, Jake.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's just honestly, yeah. You'd think you've had some kind of impressive slip on it, really, for how keen you are about it. Weird. I'm sure it's entirely, definitely not monetary motivated. This in vain rant, as we'll see. JP doesn't listen to us.
It's all about the horse.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I tell you what, I'd much rather see a potential clash between John Bon and El Fabiolo on the day, rather than an El Fabiolo cakewalk. Which, if John Bon doesn't turn up, it would be. So that's what even if John Bon is, you know, going in there and everyone's like, well, he wasn't great at Cheltenham last time, at least there is some kind of opposition to El Fabiolo. Whereas if he goes to the Ryanair, I think we're all kind of going to see a bit of a procession. Anyway, yeah, sorry, Jake, can't agree with you there, mate, I'm afraid. We'll move on, shall we? To Doncaster and the Yorkshire Rose Mares Hurdle. I thought it was a cracking renewal, and Ashrow Diamond came out on top. Jake, start with you and good old Ashrow.
Yeah, I was really impressed by this performance. As most people will know, myself and Dan have our biases going into this, but I think we both had our reservations as well. You know, the trip being 2 miles. I'm very much in the Ashrow camp between the two mares of Willys, but yeah, I was just really impressed by the way that she jumped. She was so slick and quick over her hurdles. Yeah, it was a really, really good, beautiful jumping performance, and ultimately she was a very comfortable winner as well. So in any normal year, she would have a massive chance in the mares hurdle, and she still does, but obviously we'll come on to the fly in the ointment in a minute. But yeah, very impressed by Ashrow Diamond, and you know, it's a perfect Cheltenham prep for her.
And Dan, I know that you've got a few words to say about your fan favourite, or your old favourite, Gala Marceau.
Well, yeah, I mean, she was the first technically Ante-Post bet I had for Cheltenham, obviously in the review show last year at 25 for the mares hurdle, and I'm still not upset about that position. Obviously, she's not going to be any bigger than that. I was just slightly underwhelmed. I didn't think going in she had a great chance of beating Ashrow Diamond because she was giving £3 away, race fitness on Ashrow's side, quick ground, Doncaster 2 miles. We know how keen she can be. I just thought there was a lot against her. And yet again, she was one of the most well-backed horses late on. Like, this has happened the last 3 times she's raced. She just gets so much support. She was 13-8 second favourite. Then 2 minutes after, like just before the off, she was 10-11. Like, just seemingly swaths of money comes for every time. I was slightly disappointed the fact she managed to get beat for second by Under Control, but realistically speaking, they are working back from March. I know you can say that about Ashrow Diamond as well, probably, but there are more excuses, I think, for Gala Marceau. 2.5 miles is definitely what she wants. She's a proper staying horse. I think softer ground would definitely be in her favour. I haven't given up the faith, but I was slightly underwhelmed.
Yes, I think that's a very fair observation, to be honest, to make on that. And Jake, you mentioned the fly in the ointment. We'll move on to the international hurdle, shall we? Talk about that. I don't know if either of you ever heard the sound, the beautiful purring sound of the engine of a Vauxhall VX220. But if you haven't, it's definitely worth a listen because there are many similarities between that and Lossiemouth when she cruised round and turbocharged her way to the front in the international hurdle on Saturday. That was a very long segue.
I know your segue. Sometimes I just have no idea where you're going. I'm trying to look on the script. Where's there a mention of a Vauxhall engine? Have I missed the notes? Like, you are outrageous. I love you.
It makes no sense. I don't know why I said that. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that she is a bit of a machine, isn't she? And she's still so young. She's still so young. I can understand connections bypassing the champion and going for a tilt next year, rather than this year. You know, trying to conserve her. You know, we've only seen her a few times on the race course. However, it would be something to see her up against Connie Hill, wouldn't it? Because she looked so good, didn't she, Dan?
I mean, she did. I mean, the time comparisons haven't worked out exactly great in comparison to Sergino, but you'd fail to be impressed with the way she went through the race. Maybe like in terms of the actual bare form, it isn't champion hurdle standard based on the fact, I mean, Love Envoy didn't go a yard the last day and this was better, but First Street was fairly close up. Poor First Street's been put up another £5 after dropping a few pounds and getting himself well handicapped. He's immediately given all that away for a valiant effort here. So that'll really frustrate Connection because I imagine they would have had a good tilt, a decent handicap after this. But look, she's a very, very classy mare. And if she does stay 2.5 miles, she won't be beating the mare's hurdle. But those who are stepping up to 2.5 miles for the first time don't have a great record in the mare's hurdle. It is a question that's going to be asked of her. And if it does turn into a bit of a stamina test, a strongly run 2 miles, I think bearing in mind a lot of the 2 races she's run at Cheltenham have been very slowly run affairs and they've been real tests of speed, which we know suits her. If it's a quickly run 2.5 miles at Cheltenham on soft ground, a real stamina test, that'll be a completely different ball game. And that is what's going to maybe bring the likes of Gala Marceau and give her a chance. But if it's a slowly run race on decent ground and she can just stay, she'll win. But it will be a question mark.
Do you think she's a banker, Jake?
Probably, yeah. I mean, obviously the question that everyone's going to be asking between now and Cheltenham and every single preview night is going to be, will she stay the trip? And I think that obviously we're not going to know until the day. That's stating the obvious. But I think with these type of classy Willie Mullins mares, I think they can normally stay pretty much any trip. Obviously, Annie Power won a stayers and a champion hurdle, didn't she? So I think they can go over any sort of trip. And yeah, look, she's a class act, isn't she? I can see the calls for the champion hurdle. I was hoping that one of you guys would do the Kevin Blake and say it's a disgrace she's not running in the champion hurdle. But like you two, I agree that she's got time on her side here. Go try and win the mare's hurdle this year, and then champion hurdle is ready for her the year after, isn't it? Like, she is only 5 years old, which is pretty mental considering how talented she looks. So yeah, thought she was really good. By far the most impressive winner on the day for me. And yeah, I think she's just one of these classic Rich Ritchie impressive mares, isn't she? That hopefully is going to go right to the top and win loads of Grade 1s.
Completely agree. Yeah, I mean, finally, we're going to move on to the Solarina at Fairyhouse. And now I know that Dysart Enos isn't a real talent. Look, she is superb. There is no doubting that. She's impressed many so far. She's got Cheltenham winning form, but I think she's going to be a sitting duck here for Jade de Grugy. I was so impressed with this performance in the Solarina. I think she's a proper unit. There were some decent fillies in that race, and she just brushed them aside with ease. I think the form looks stronger to me than anything that Dysart Enos has produced so far. Jake, what do you think about Jade de Grugy?
Oh, yeah, I was really impressed by her. I think a lot can be taken from the fact that Willie Mullins said that is an impressive a winner as he sent to the Solarina. So he clearly was impressed as well. She put in a really good round. And I think a lot is being made now of the £5 penalty that she'll carry because of it. Especially, obviously, as you said, in the wake of Dysart Enos, winning basically a nothing race again this weekend so that she can avoid that penalty. But yeah, 5 of the 8 in total mares novice hurdle winners have carried that penalty. So to be honest, for me, it wouldn't really be a concern. 3 of the front 4 carried it last year as well. So to me, I think the level of form that she's achieved is just not even comparable to Dysart Enos. Obviously, Dysart Enos has the potential to be anything, as we know, but she's going to have to be extremely, extremely good to be even near Brighter Days Ahead, let alone this mare. So yeah, between the three of them, it's going to be a really good race, hopefully. But I would probably be in the Jade Grugy camp right now.
Are you in that camp too, Dan?
Well, yeah, I was really impressed by her debut, and to be honest, if we'd started this series earlier, she probably would have been my first pick after her maiden hurdle win when she was about 14-1 for this race. But by the time we came to do the first episode, she was into eights, so I left her alone. So I think what I was impressed by here is I think this turned into a relative test of speed. I think last time she showed plenty of stamina on 2.5 miles of Leopardstown on pretty testing ground. I think this race only really developed on the turn for home over 2 mile 2. So he showed she had a bit of a different dimension. Obviously, stamina has been quite key to the Mares Novice Herd. Obviously, can be a real stamina test. 2 mile 1, new course, big field. So that's going to hold her in real good regard. She just looks extremely professional. I think there's a lot to like about her. With the absence seemingly of brighter days ahead in terms of where she is, obviously, I would have expected those two to clash there. I think always well with her. They've just clearly got a different path, but maybe going straight to Cheltenham now wouldn't be ideal, or I don't know if there's a race in between, but she would be my favourite for the Mares Novice Hurdle. I think Dysart is run at Cheltenham is maybe being slightly overlooked because she's just turned up in a nothing race at Donny and won at 1-9. I still think that was a very high level achieved from a mare on that occasion against the Gelding, so I wouldn't be completely writing her off, but if you're asking me who I think the more exciting, more professional at this stage, it would be Jada Grugy. And if you said I have to have a bet on the race now, it would be with her.
Okay, good stuff. Let's move on then to a performance away from what we've just been talking about from last weekend that we're taking away from those couple of days. One that really stood out to us. And I have to say, looking at the running order, I've seen that Jake is putting up Jericho de Repene in the Rossington Main. I have to do a double take here because I thought of all the horses I saw last weekend, he was the one who impressed me the least. But there you go. It's a game of opinions, eh, Jake?
No, you're absolutely right. It's not in a positive light. It's in a completely negative light. Yeah, no.
We're in agreement then. Whee!
Yeah, no. I just wanted to flag about yeah, obviously Jericho de Repene and the Rossington Main. I know most will have seen it anyway, but I think what really says a lot about his performance in victory, to be fair to him, but he was left alone on a mark of 132 by the British handicapper today, and considering he won a Grade 2 novice hurdle, that says a lot, I think, to me. Normally the British handicapper is very quick to put them up £5 just for winning any kind of Grade 2. So the fact he's been left on 132, as I said, says it all. How unimpressive it was. That, and also combined with Nicky Henderson's reaction to watching the race at Cheltenham on course William Hill, which I'm sure you saw on Twitter this weekend. He looked a bit worried and very relieved when he crossed the line in front. So yeah, no, I just wanted to flag how I think he's one of these horses that gets really hyped up, puts in a performance like this, and okay, he'll probably go to the Supreme. Okay, he'll probably run quite well, just like John Bond did when he scrambled home in the Rossington Main himself, albeit in a little bit better fashion. But I just can't have him for the Supreme whatsoever. And yeah, I think he's going to be beaten by any good Irish novice that comes over, and yeah, he's just not one for me at all. The other one I wanted to briefly mention as well was Woodhoo, who ran in the listed mares hurdle, juvenile hurdle, and yeah, she was just really good, wasn't she? She quickened nicely, put in a really good performance. I don't think she's won particularly for me for Cheltenham, but she's boosted that Corrick track form from that I was talking about last week as well quite nicely. So yeah, that was more of a positive, but yeah, Jericho de Repene, a massive negative for me.
Yeah, and I know, Dan, you're going to go to Ireland for a couple of very taking performances.
Yeah, the week after I put up a Willie Mullins bumper horse, he has two bumper horses come out and look very good, which is just fantastic, really. And it does happen this time of year. It shouldn't be overly unexpected, but Jasmine DeVoe won at Naas. I think it was the bumper that Western Diego won last year. Visually very impressive. The second has been beaten a very similar distance by Gold in the Mountain and Petite Secret previously. I actually hadn't checked the market until about 10 minutes ago, and I was pretty shocked to see he was basically second favourite for Cheltenham at 6-1. I think that's a really bad price for a once run bumper horse, and we're about to have the DRF. I think that's a terrible price. You'll get that on the day, surely. I wouldn't touch him with a barge pole at his current Ante-Post price. And then Argento Boy, who was, I think, described affectionately by Willie Mullins live on Racing TV as a big lazy fecker. And to be fair, it's about right. But his pedigree is all smart bumper types, full brother to Bryce Hill. I suspect he probably won't be up to winning a champion bumper this year, but he will look a decent staying novice hurdling prospect for next season.
Okay, good stuff. I'm going to nominate Gidley Park at Cheltenham. I just love this horse. I absolutely adore him. I don't think the race went right for him at all in any kind of way. They went a bit of a crawl. I think he wants a strong pace. He's got a lovely, big, long stride, and he still managed to win. I did think that when Lucky Place sort of caught him out, caught Johnny Burke napping a bit, getting first run up the near side, I thought that was it. I thought you're going to have to really battle, and he probably won't be able to do it. But to be fair to him, he did get on top and on top at the end quite well. I know that form isn't particularly strong, and Lucky Place wouldn't be anywhere near the top of the novices, but I don't think anything suited Gidley Park on Saturday, and he retains his unbeaten record. I think he'll stay 3 miles, but I think he'd prefer a really strong gallop at 2.5. So I wouldn't be writing him off just yet. I think he needs something to aim at, and I love his cruising speed. So I'd be keeping him on side, and yeah, I'm in love with this horse. So I'm hoping he can be a nice hurdler and even better chaser. So looking forward to seeing him again. I'm just going to read out some Cheltenham updates, actually, because I should probably get those out of the way. For those of you at home who aren't aware, the following has happened in the last 7 days. Allaho is out of the Cheltenham Festival. Obviously, a big shame. Jerry Colombe is going straight to the Gold Cup. Il Francais is unlikely to take up that speculative Turner's entry due to missing a week's worth of work thanks to snow. And probably the biggest news of the week is that Caldwell Construction, in those red and white silks, will be selling all of their horses at public auction on the 5th of February. As such, none of their horses will be running at the DRF this weekend, which is a massive shame. The likes of Mighty Bandit, My Triumph Hurdle Hope, Caldwell Potter, and Safura, the likes of those. And they could easily move trainer before Cheltenham. So we'll try and do our best to keep you updated ahead of next week's episode. And lastly, No Flies on Him won't run at the DRF. It's going to be the 18th of February for him instead. Quick word from you, Dan, on that one.
Yeah, it was a mixed couple of hours for me this morning as I was looking at this. Obviously, 2 weeks ago, interview, Racing TV at O'Grady. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. He's going to run. Then all of a sudden, he's just not there. So, I mean, I automatically assumed the worst. He must be out. And then, thankfully, I wasn't made to wait too long for the update that he goes to Punchestown instead for the race that Hunter Jean won last year, but it's been rearranged and moved to Punchestown. So, mixed feelings about it. I wanted him to get Grade 1 experience. We know he likes Leopardstown course and distance, and I thought even if he ran there a second to Ballyburn wouldn't be the end of the world, and he'd still have a decent chance in a Supreme. Now he goes to Punchestown. He kind of has to win and win pretty well. And they seem pretty boyish about still going to Cheltenham, but it's probably not the ideal preparation. We don't know really what's going to turn up in that race, but it'll be easier than taking on the likes of Ballyburn. But yeah, not exactly the path I had in mind when I put him up, but still, I'm still 33-1. I'm content.
Okay, do you know what? On that note, then, Dan, we all need to give a horse that we're looking forward to seeing at the DRF, and I know that you've got a couple that you're looking forward to seeing. So we'll start with you.
Well, the bumper horse, as you ought to know, obviously takes on the established ones. He's the top of the market for that race of those who can run at Cheltenham, which is promising. Hoping for a big effort there. Zenta in the Liffey Hurdle was a horse I actually had to get priced up for the county after I saw her entered for that. Obviously third in the Triumph last year, behind Lossiemouth and Gala Marceau. Really classy mare. Take it back from chasing after a below par chasing performance. I think she could be very interesting off a mark 138. And then the Nathaniel Lacey is a race I'm just intrigued by because I think it might help sort out this very murky picture of the Albert Bartlett. Predators of Gold is a horse I have a lot of time for, but whether he's quite a free miler, I'm not sure. The likes of Lachlan in there. So I think that's going to be a really informative race. First race on the card. There's so much to get stuck into, but those are the 3 things that come to mind right now.
Okay, good stuff. And for you, Jake, you're going to the Spring Juvenile, is that right?
Yeah, the Spring Juvenile is the race that I am most looking forward to. Obviously, I've got Cargies as an Ante-Post shout for the Triumph. Willie's currently got 8 of the 13 entries, so surely he can't run all of them as much as I'm sure he'd like to. And on Monday, he was actually quoted on RTV as saying that he wants to run Salvador Mundi, but he's not quite come to hand yet. So it will depend on how he works this week as to whether he runs or not. Obviously, he's like second in the market at the minute, so that would be a big non-runner if that does happen. We shall keep a close eye on decks for that. But either way, I think Cargies will definitely be running. She's got the £7 obviously allowance as a filly, and I just want to see her settled much better this time. I want to see her reverse that form of Carla Conti, who's currently shorter in the market than her as well. Cargies is currently available at 7-1, which I think is actually quite a nice each way price. And yeah, I'm just hoping she runs a big race. The other small one that I will just mention as well is Sharp Object may run in the Mares Bumper on the Sunday, previously won by Grangi. She's going to get the option of the rearranged Alan Swinbank listed mare's bumper at Market Raising next week as well. So we're going to see which one she goes for. Hopefully they'll be leaning towards the DRF, because obviously the prize money is just outstanding and you only get one crack at this. So yeah, if she runs, obviously she's not going to have a favourite chance. Willie's got loads in there, but hopefully she runs a big race if she does.
Yeah, and hopefully she runs at the DRF, because at least then you can see her. Whereas
Exactly.
Would you be making the trip to Lincolnshire? I somehow doubt that.
No, I don't think so.
I'll go see it for you, mate. It's my local track.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll send you the owner's badge.
I was going to say Farron Glory for my horse I'm burning for, but actually what I'm going to say is I'm looking forward to everything. I can't wait for the DRF this weekend. I've never been before. I've never been to Leopardstown before, and I'm really excited. And not only am I excited to see all the racing, top-class racing, but I'm excited to spend some time with you guys from the Jump Show. So looking forward to it a lot. Right, now it's the time we've all been waiting for. It's number 5 in our Ante-Post bets. And I think this week we'll go to Jake first. Jake, who's number 5 in your Ante-Post bet portfolio?
Yeah, so I am going to be heading to Dan's favourite race, the Kim Muir. I've had a good look through the market. I've got a horse that could be running this weekend at the DRF, and I just think he would be an absolute stand-up contender. But before I get into who it is, I just wanted to run through the market quickly, because I think it's an absolute mess right now. And if you can find a horse that you do fancy or you think is definitely running, then this is definitely the route to go down, because up top of the market there, you've got Meeting of the Waters. He's rated 147 in Britain, so can't run because it's a 0 to 145. Angel's Dawn is next in at 141 in Ireland, so she's going to be around top weight if she does get in. She was rated 131 when she won it last year. I'd be surprised if she could back that up. Stumptown's 10 to 1, again, can't run. He's rated 147 in Ireland, so he would go up further than that. So definitely can't get in. Same Manello Crooner, 12 to 1. He's 146 Ireland, so again, with the British tax, would have no chance of getting in. Then you've got Good Time Johnny, who I just think, some people say it's a plot. I just think he can't jump. He's never been closer than 23 lengths in a chase start. 0 from 4 in fences, couldn't have him at all. Apple Away's got other options. You know, she could go Ultima, National Hunt Chase. God knows where she's going to go. I'm not fully convinced that she's a top class mare, but we'll see with her. Then you've got Cool Survivor, 137 BHA. He could run. He's on the list definitely of horses that I think could go well here, but he's not fully convinced yet. And then you've got Monbeg Genius at 14 to 1 as well. He's 147 in Britain. So again, can't run. So it's just full of runners. There's probably plenty more if I kept on going down the list, but I'll stop there. And instead, I'll point you in the direction of Percival Le Galois for Gavin Cromwell, who just looks, as I said, the perfect Kim Muir candidate to my eye. He was an impressive winner on his chase debut over 2 mile, 2.5 furlong at Galway. That was back in the autumn at the beginning of the season, where he beat Never a Dull Moment, who was rated 118 very easily. It was a nice jumping performance that day, and it was actually a race where Meeting of the Waters ran in. He was the 11 to 8 favourite that day. It was his first start of the season, so you can probably not, you couldn't take it literally, but he absolutely smashed it by 27 lengths. I think, as I said, he probably did need the run, but it's just a bit of extra form to look at. And as I said, he jumped well that day, won quite easily. And after that, they kind of took a leap of faith and they stepped him up into a grade 3 novice chase over 2.5 miles. He was sent off 5 to 1, so he's clearly, fairly well fancied in the market, considering, let's be clear about it, his stablemate was the favourite, and he's rated 152. But unfortunately, he took a novice full that day. It was at the third last, and he was in around third place as well. And as I said, he just jumped it big, didn't get the landing gear out, took a novice tumble. He would have learnt plenty from that. But I think the fact that they then gave him a month off and ran him into grade 1 Drinmore just kind of says that they wanted to get another run into him, get a spin into him, get a confidence booster into him. And he was anchored out in the rear the whole time under Mark Walsh. We know how it goes with these JP horses sometimes. And as I said, the main objective there was to get him a clear round, and handicaps was certainly on their minds for the future. So he's been given a rating of 132 over fences in Ireland, which I think is completely lenient. I think it's a very, very fair mark. I think it's almost too lenient, to be honest, based on his achievements. He was rated 135 over hurdles. He still got that racing should they go for a hurdle race with him. And obviously he was a very impressive winner of the the 3 mile Grade B handicap hurdle at the DRF last season, which would have set him up nicely for a go at the Temps, where he was rated 140 in Britain for the Temps last season. He was sub 8-1 in all the markets. He was quite well fancied by a lot of people, and unfortunately didn't get declared for the race. But as I said, he's turned into a good chaser. And I think that going back up to 3 miles as a chaser is going to be where we unlock that further improvement. Obviously, as I said, he's been quite nicely minded through his chase career so far. Was a good winner on his debut, but he's definitely been minded. He's got a good mark, and I think they're ready to exploit that as soon as they want to. As I said, so he's been entered in a 2 mile 6.5 furlong amateur riders handicap a couple of weeks ago. So to me, that suggests that they're looking at the Kinmure. Perhaps they would have had a go that day with Derek O'Connor on board, but they didn't go for it in the end. And instead, he's entered in the 2 mile 5 Grade 3 handicap chase at the DRF on Sunday. So he may well turn up there. He's been confirmed for the race today. Obviously, he's still out of the weights at the minute. But Fakir Dudaries is the top weight, and he's owned by, who guessed it, JP McManus. So if they wanted to get him into the race in the weights, at the minute he's currently out of the weights, then they could do so. I don't know what the plan is. Obviously, I'm not privy to any information like that. But I think that even if he doesn't go here, he's got an option at Fairyhouse next week over 3 miles in a rated novice chase. That could be another option for him. Or alternatively, he could go the Stumptown route and run in a race in Britain beforehand. That would obviously give him his British mark and allow the British assessor to assess him as they did with Stumptown. But I think because he's a bit higher in the weights than Stumptown was at that stage, they probably won't go that way. It probably will be a race in Ireland, but it's just something to consider. And obviously Stumptown for Gavin Cromwell was a very good second last year. Was unlucky to be beaten by Angel's Dawn, and he ran in the Kinmure off a mark of 135, which is, Percival right now, if he went straight to the Kinmure, probably would be around 138, 139, I'd imagine. So one more run to get into him. I'd imagine he'll probably get up to the low 140s before he gets into the Kinmure. I think would be perfect. Owned by JP McManus, he's probably the most prominent position of a JP McManus horse in the market. So Derek O'Connor surely would be the rider on the agenda here. And look, Gavin Cromwell's been brilliant all season, hasn't he, at raiding Britain? He's 9 from 38, 24% strike rate across the whole season. And I hope that he can go one better in the Kinmure this time around. So just so that you can see the price available, 16-1 is available on Bet365 on the and Sky Bet without the non-run no bet concession. So if you scroll down to the bottom of their markets, you can find the price without non-run no bet, which is slightly bigger. If you want to take the 12-1 non-runner no bet, just because there is a bit of uncertainty if he's actually going to turn up here or not, then obviously I wouldn't begrudge you at all. I'm probably going to split my stakes across the 2 markets just for complete transparency. But yeah, Percival Ogawa, I just think he's going to have a cracking chance if he goes to the Kinmure, and I would be all over him if he does turn up here.
Brilliant stuff. Absolutely brilliant. I could listen to you talking about why horses won't run in a Cheltenham race all day long. Genuinely. Just listing why horses aren't going to go. Genius. Okay, great stuff, Jake. That was brilliant. Dan, on to your selection for this week then.
Yeah, and I think a caveat is needed before I go into this. I think it's important to say what I try to do with this series, because there are a lot out there, and I try to have a bit of fun with this. Of course, I want to put up winners. And my main objective is generally to get horses there at a shorter price. But anyone who's watched me on this show previously or other shows know I like to make cases of horses who just aren't talked about and maybe a bit off the beaten path, something a bit different. Because there's a lot of shows you could watch like this, and we appreciate you watching ours. So I try and make it somewhat original. So now please excuse my madness while I now make a case for a 25-1 shot in the Coral Cup, which is probably the most difficult handicap of the entire festival. And unbelievably, it's also trained by Gavin Cromwell. It's in Canto Bruno. I know, I think I'm starting to lose the plot, but hear me out. Hear me out. Because obviously this is a devilishly difficult race, even on the day, but I can see a world where Encanto Bruno goes off near the head of the market. Obviously, he's a dual bumper winner, including at Cheltenham back in 2022 in the October meeting where he beat Strong Leader. And then he thought he shaped really well in the champion bumper on ground far softer than ideal. Obviously, it was that day where the Coral Cup was run on really deep conditions. So was the bumper. It was probably soft to heavy more realistically. And he was still bang there on the turn for home. We know he wants better ground, but he still ran a very good race and was looked after pretty much immediately after his winning chance had gone. I thought that was still highly encouraging. His hurdling career has been interesting. was he hacked up on his debut in the summer, making use of the ground while it's in his favour, then completely bombed out at Galway, and then he moved to Gavin Cromwell from John O'Connor. It was all a bit strange. But I mean, that debut for the yard came at, again, the October meeting this season, over 2 mile 4, and he won really stylishly. If you remember that race, he seemed like he just appeared out of nowhere, travelling so strongly, won basically on the bridle. Mel Monroe was second, who then went on to finish second at Croke Park. On her next start, Tagman is third, and he's a very reliable yardstick. Push the button, Isaac de Sobo, a lot of subsequent winners in behind. And that race actually has precedent with the Coral Cup. Campron won it before being fourth in his first attempt at a Coral Cup. Obviously, went on to finish third in it. Canardier won it. He went on to be fifth in a Coral. So it has been a race that's produced, bearing in mind it's a novice hurdle in October, we've had a few winners in very recent years go close in the Coral Cup. So I'd say that's a reasonable guide to it. Then he went to the Raw Bond, completely different conditions, down to 2 miles, soft ground, ran okay, just never really looked to be in his favour. And then really strangely ran in a heavy ground 2 mile handicap off top weight at Christmas on Leopardstown. I think it was the second day of the Leopardstown Christmas Festival where the ground was just abysmal. And he was buried on the inside on the worst of it and was just nursed around. Like really strange. Right. I mean, maybe they were in a mission to see if he was as ground dependent as the rumours were. But I think after the October race, Gavin Cromwell said, I'm not sure he's that ground dependent, but I think he definitely wants it good to soft. Really, I don't think he definitely wasn't as heavy it was at Leopardstown on that occasion. I think no Dublin Racing Festival entries I thought was interesting, so I'm presuming he's being kept for the spring. No Grade 1 entries either, which is a bit odd, and that is a bit of a concern. But Gavin Cromwell's only ever had 3 runners in Cheltenham novice hurdles. All of them are in the Albert Bartlett. So it isn't necessarily a route he often goes down. And on the flip side, he had 3 handicap runners at Cheltenham last year with SPs of 12 to 1, 13 to 2, and 7 to 2. His runners are always respected. He knows what he's doing. We've seen that a lot this season. And on the flip side, this is a horse who's a novice with high-class bumper form, course form, completely unexposed in handicaps at this trip. He's rated 139 in Ireland and will probably be rated in the low to mid 140s in the UK, which is bang on the general mark of a Coral Cup winner. He ticks a lot of boxes from a trends perspective, and all of his best form is when fresh. Every single win has come after a break of 85 or more days. That's also worked pretty well with the Coral Cup recently, after a bit of a break. So if he's going to go there, he'll be there fresh. And especially if it's good to soft ground, we haven't had one in a while. I think we're overdue a good to soft Wednesday. So please God, let it be one. I can see him being very, very popular. And at 25 to 1, non-run no bet, while he's not going to go off 9 to 4, I can see him going off around the 10 to 1, 9 to 1 mark, especially if we get good to soft ground, given that course form, given that high class bumper form, and given his very shrewd connections. So Encanto Bruno, 25 to 1, Coral Cup. I'm a madman.
Bruno.
No, you make a very strong case. Do you know what? I was about to say, Jack, you make a very strong case, Dan. If he does win, you have to go up to Andrew Blair White and shout Bruno in his face. Obviously,
after he gave up the faith as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would be that would be a sweet moment. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, good stuff. Great stuff, Dan. I am quickly going to say something about That's All Right, Gino, actually, before I do my Ante-Post selection. Very, very sad to lose him. Obviously, he was a really exciting chaser. I do feel for Jamie Snowden and the team. They had such a great day with Garlaw, which obviously was made very sad by the loss of That's All Right, Gino. So thinking of the team, moving on to my Ante-Post selection, I'm going to be short and sweet with this one. I'm going for Ginny's Destiny in the Turner's Chase, following his really pretty impressive victory off top weight in the Novices Handicap Chase on Trials Day on Saturday. It was a really good performance. He jumped very well. He travelled well from the front, and he drew clear in really nice fashion. And he has all the attributes that Stage Star had when winning the same race last year off top weight for Paul Nicholls. And then, of course, he went on to win the Turners at the Cheltenham Festival. And Paul Nicholls was saying after the interview, in his interview after the Ginny's Destiny 1 on Saturday, that he's every bit as good as Stage Star, which is all I need, really. And I think you look at the market, and I do regard it in a rather simple fashion. You've got Gaelic Warrior at 13 to 8 favourite, and you've got Ginny's Destiny second favourite at 6 to 1. Gaelic Warrior has been to Cheltenham twice now. In my opinion, he has run £10 below his ceiling both times he's been to Cheltenham. I don't think he wants to go that way round. I don't think he's in love with Cheltenham. I know he's only run there twice, but what I've seen so far says to me he's not nearly as good as most of his other races he's run, particularly in Ireland, going right hand. They're going the other way around. Therefore, Would you rather have Gaelic Warrior, who's possibly a little bit quirky, won't be quite as good, possibly going that way around, won't be quite as good at Cheltenham? Or would you rather have Knees Destiny, a really improving chase, a big bullock of a horse who's got all the qualities that Stage Star possesses, loves Cheltenham, loves jumping, and goes from the front, and will be very hard to beat? I'd rather have him at 6-1 than Gaelic Warrior at 13-8. So that's really my reasoning for it. He's a real progressive horse. He's flying up the ranks. He won that off 147 in really easy fashion on Saturday. He's quite clearly a mid 150s to 160 chaser, and he could easily rank higher than that given his current rate of trajectory. So Genie's Destiny for me at 6-1 in the Turner's Chase, which is a race that could easily fall apart. If you look at the names in that contest, plenty are either going to go up in trip or down in trip. There aren't many going for the intermediate distance at the moment. So he'd be my pick for the latest Ante-Post selection in my book. Good stuff, guys. Thanks very much. I think the last thing I want to say is that we are all going to the DRF this weekend. So if you do see us, please do come and say hello. It'd be great to chat to you about racing and about the DRF too. So make sure to make yourself known to us. We'd love to say hello. I think I speak for both Dan and Jake when I say that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good stuff.
No. No, of course. No, we love it. It's great. It always happens. It happens at Cheltenham from time to time. Why not make it an Irish tradition as well?
Absolutely, yeah. One thing I didn't say at the start of the video, which was really poor of me, is please remember to like if you enjoyed this video, and do subscribe to our channel because it really helps us out. We'd love to hit the 1,500 target, and we're nearly there. So yeah, it would be a massive help to us. Hopefully you've all hung on long enough to hear me say that at the end of the video rather than the beginning. All right, that's it from us. That's it from us until after the DRF. So please do enjoy all the action, and we'll see you to talk about more racing after that.